regular board meeting. And start with our invocation.
Let's pray. Father, as always, we are most grateful for the opportunity to meet here today. We are very thankful to you for all those employees of the Board of Public Works, the city, and the volunteers that put forth their time, talents, and skills during the flooding. Without them, things might have turned out differently. One of the greatest advantages and truly a blessing for all of the community is that the Board of Public Works had the resources to respond to the flooding crisis. And as we know, that the city is an owned utility, which makes all the difference. We recognize that many of the challenges we face in financing and repairing the city's storm water system. We ask for your guidance in acquiring and using the resources that may come available in the future. For this we pray in your name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consent agenda, minutes, payrolls, and claims. Is there a motion on that?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Now we come to comments from the audience. I see two commenters. Mr. Dobson, you signed up first.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm mainly here because on 3 occasions now, we've had flooding in our downtown, on the downtown side of the levee, unfortunately. Matthew, you can jump in anytime you want if I'm incorrect on something, but the first time there was a misstep or a malfunction in the pumps that pumped the water from the downtown area down by the Mark Twain Hotel, and the excess pressure that basically resulted from the water rushing down from, Mark Twain Avenue, 3rd Street, those areas, blew out the end of Rock Street. After that, 2 other times, with the latest time being this last late Sunday night, or late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, received a phone call and it happened again. Now we had some torrential rains that came at about midnight, and we had the same results. I was told that by the business owner this had been the worst one yet, but to my knowledge, John Hart had been requested that the street department personnel go down to man the pumps. If there was a storm warning issue, there was a storm warning issue for this particular event. I know that it's probably been about a week and a half ago that Matthew and I was with John Hart down at the with the Corps of Engineers down on North Street. They had some ideas about how to remedy, but it also, it includes a new pumping station that would be down on North Street that would be quite costly. And with what's happened in the past, the pump operators told me that they're pumping the pond and basically they're pulling it down and have to shut the pumps off to wait for it to come back up, which to me as a layman, just the thing that comes to mind to me is that you've got a partial restriction in the lines between North Street and the Mark Twain Hotel. So after yesterday's event, I called Heath and asked him, when the river drops low enough, if they can run a camera down that section of drainage to make sure that we don't have any restrictions. And then Heath also said something about maybe it's time to, have an engineer take a look at things, give us some options on what we can do down there. So I don't know if that'd be cost borne by, this body here, or if it'd be shared by the city and, the city council, the Board of Public Works, but it's something that we're gonna have to work out, when our businesses are threatened, on the wrong side of the levee, we've got problems we need to take care of. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to make you aware of those problems and look forward to working together to solve them. Thank you.
kind of.
I sure have a question for you, actually. Has there been any talk of restarting the levy self-financing district?
To my knowledge, no, and I know there was some money left over when that TIF was dissolved, and, you know, it was turned back to those property owners. And, you know, there was comments made on that, but I can tell you that Thursday when Matthew was downtown, I had come from it was a meeting with Corey Mahaffey and the HHMC, and they were talking about different ways to, you know, finance projects downtown. And the flood wall was mentioned as one of those. And basically it'd be a taxing body that would work similar to a TIF. He had another name for it, that would funnel their property taxes back down to,
The SID, I think.
The SID, there you go.
Yes, I.
Okay, but it would funnel their taxes back downtown, and they would have a board that would decide, you know, how those funds were, you know, spent through grants or otherwise.
Okay.
Sorry, CID, Community Improvement District.
There you go.
Yeah.
Were you at that meeting?
No, I
Okay.
wasn't, but
Okay.
we messed up the acronym, which is why we were laughing.
Okay, all right. Anything else?
Yeah, I was under the assumption that once the river gets low enough, we're gonna take a look at that North Street failure, you know, once there's waters down. And we may have to hire an engineer to help us, you know, engineer to give us an opinion
Sure.
of repairs, maybe. Just to have a second look at what we should do. We're talking about spending a few $100,000, so.
Well, Matthew's aware of what the Corps had recommended, which would require the city to acquire some additional property to make that happen, so.
So it may be possible that if we hire an engineer, that we have them look at that at the
Okay.
same time.
Sure.
At least look at what the stormwater system down there is designed to handle, why it's not handling the rain events we've been having.
Well,
That kind of stuff.
we've been having these 500 floods, you know, more often.
There was problems in 2008 when they had the floodgates installed and the storm sewer shut off. I remember we TV'd it after that water went down and we didn't find
Everything's
anything.
good.
So,
The big problem is floodgates were intended, and stormwater gates were intended to only be shut for a short amount of time.
Sure.
And we're looking at two months or longer
Sure.
now, and we've had a few rain events that had caused some issues, so.
Okay.
There's no doubt, there's been some flooding to some businesses. I know the brewery in particular, No Planners, have had flooding multiple times, and we'll see what we can come
Steve
up with.
Terry, Bruce Anton. Yeah.
I mean, is it accurate to say that the pumps were a cause of this problem?
I don't know, we don't operate the pumps. I mean, that's.
They don't come on automatically? on
I think a
floats?
couple of them do. I think they had their issues with one.
So
They
this
have to
isn't a
make-
matter of somebody failing to
No.
flip a switch?
No.
Or,
So really, it's
And
just
what's-
that it's inundated
and what's
and
happening?
down there on that corner, it's turning a 90-degree angle, right?
It's actually
And who
turning
knows?
two.
What's that?
It's turning 2 right there on Center Street.
Okay, so, I mean,
Yeah, they're
to
actually
me,
sending,
that's where your issue was.
they're actually sending the street department personnel down there to manually make sure the pumps are running. So they'll manually turn them on, they'll pump everything down, and then they'll have to shut them off and wait for the rest of the water to get down there.
Yeah,
So the pumps are capable of keeping up, it's just a matter of getting the water down
Right.
there. And these are, it's what, 5 to 7 MGD pumps or something like that?
Oh,
There's
they're
3 of them.
19,000 gallons.
Don't have a low-level float?
They do.
Come
Yes,
on,
they
and
do.
a high-level
Yeah.
set off?
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it has that stuff, they send somebody down there.
Is
just to
that a
make
box
sure.
culvert or is that a pipe?
It's a pipe.
Big pipe?
Is it 90 or a street, like a street ale?
Oh, it's a box that turns in.
And that North Street storm sewer that comes down Mark Twain Avenue from the pool and Mark Twain Avenue that normally goes out the North Street gate is not connected to the north and south storm sewers flowing into the flood pumping detention pond. And it's not connected to there. Right now it's going into there because it's
Coming out of the ground. and
coming out of the ground and going into the
grade.
grates. But normally that water just sits in the North Street storm sewer until the river goes down and we open it up, just backs up.
Oh, okay, so it's not connected to
Not
the
connected.
Mhm.
parallel.
It's just coming out of the ground, and there is an overflow.
but there's a pressure relief that's up on the hill, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which shoots
first
water
house
out
on
of
the
it. Sometimes,
left if you're going down.
kind of on the north side of North Street, kind of northwest edge of it, the old ridge approach almost. So it shoots water out of the ground, and then it goes into the grates, into the detention pond.
And this is old infrastructure that we're talking about that failed, and we don't know what condition it was in coming into this, I suppose.
It's a rock laid up storm sewer that they gun-ited or shotcreted back in '93 when they did the flood wall.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been in it, but it's been 10 years or so. Definitely a prime example of why we need some funding for stormwater.
Well, exactly, you know, I mean, it's too bad this didn't happen before the election. It's just another need that is there that, you know, I'm asking for you guys to take care of, and you've got no funding for it.
Yep.
You know,
Nice
we
things
need
cost
that,
money.
yeah. So I hope you will, you know, pursue a November election and we have a better outcome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and thanks for fielding what I imagine is a lot of inquiries.
All right, our next speaker, Alan.
Good evening, thanks for letting me sign up. Side note, thanks for working on the cameras and the speakers for the microphones. Because I listen to the videos like a day after you guys post them on YouTube while I'm working, so, yeah, but.
While you're working?
While I'm working, yeah, gives me something to listen to, so. But, real reason why I'm here, Martin Street on South Side, I know it's on your guys' agenda to talk about, and council agenda for tomorrow night to recommend to close the street. Just have a couple of questions. How long has Martin Street had the steel plates or the barricades on it? Do we know?
2016 or 17?
I'd say 2016.
Yeah.
So like the plates and everything
Mhm.
wasn't put in 16?
Yeah, we started with one plate. and then,
Started with
of course,
one, yeah.
that didn't expand.
Okay. 'Cause I've talked to some citizens and they said that it's been like that for like 10 plus years. So I don't know, but that's why I'm asking, okay. Second thing, with, North Street and now Martin Street for stormwater problems and closing down this street, I know we're still keeping North Street open, but to close down this street, it being the first one, have we told, did we reach out to citizens before this or the Tuesday meeting of council to tell them we were doing this?
We did not reach out to anybody.
Mm.
The street department approached us and said, basically just approached me at an emergency management meeting and said, do you want to close Martin Street? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
So after investigating and talking to Matt, became known that the street shifted downward a little
Right.
bit, the part that's not on top of the storm sewer. And then also the contractor that the city hired to do the street paving project refused to drive their
Right.
dump trucks and equipment on there. So Pevney Stonebach took a look at the street to kind of give an opinion. They said, yes, it shifted downward. You should probably limit traffic,
Right.
limit weight, that kind of stuff on the road. So at that point, we set up a meeting, me and Matt and Andy Dorian, met with Pevney Stone, kind of discussed it all, came up with this proposed street closure and, less than 5,000 pound weight limit. But we have not talked to any citizens about it other than yourself.
Right. Okay.
And we don't close roads, right?
Well, normally, the BPW doesn't close roads unless there's some sort of failure, and, then we put a steel plate on or barricade it off or anything like that. But deciding to close the street for a long, extended period of time is not something that we normally do, no. Because either the traffic committee or, people in charge of the street department typically do that. They're just asking our opinion, and of course, our opinions kind of err on the side of caution if there's issues, and suggest, barricading the section of it all. And just, I'll talk about it again later on the agenda, but this is what's gonna be in front of council tomorrow night. There's maybe 100-foot section of Martin Street between a couple of driveways that we're proposing to close. everybody has access to their driveway. One customer has to go around to Ann Street, so it's kind of around the back way. Basically, it's closing it to through traffic and then limiting the weight on the road to 5,000 pounds or less. So that way a school bus or something doesn't come down this road, turn around, or a big trash truck.
The lady there though, she'll have to travel like a mile to get to her garage, that's the biggest thing. So it'll still be like a dead end on both sides though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's gonna suck when it snows.
Yeah, they'll be in a valley down there, that's the problem. So they'll have to go down a hill to get to their house and back up a hill to get back out, so. We'll see
Talking
how that
about
works.
the last house on the.
Yeah, like on Ann,
east
and
side.
then, on Ann, there's a house, and then there's another house up on, halfway up Ann, that, they got foreclosed on or anything, but for however long we do plan to close the street, you know, if anybody ever moves into that house or anything, that'll probably stop anybody from trying to buy that, I mean, if they can't get out, so. But there's lots of other houses up that way also that use that, who won't be able to get out with trailers or boats and make that corner anymore instead of coming down Martin Street, so.
It's definitely, we've been over there,
Yeah.
standing outside looking at it, inspecting, and there's a lot of through traffic.
There's a lot, yeah, there's a lot more than you think.
Hey, our issue is that if the storm sewer below is continuing to get worse, you know, we don't want any more weight than we have to have on top of there. So we're trying to limit that at the same time, give people access, you know, the local traffic, give them access if we can.
Alan, have you talked to the folks who live there? All of them or some of them?
Yes,
Yeah, 3 of them are on the council, didn't they?
yes. I've talked to 15 of them probably, yeah, that all live in that area. It was quite a town hall meeting, so.
Were they understanding, blindsided, upset, something in between, all of them?
We'll go with all, but a lot of them understood, a lot of them, they're gonna speak at the council meeting to voice their concern and, you know, what I've already said here, that'll be their main topics, but at the same time, I mean, they get it with no fund, there's nothing we can do, but at the same time,
They live there.
they live there, so
Also,
that's the problem.
The unfortunate part of this area is there are no funds, there are no immediate plans to make the repairs.
Right,
So you're not talking a month. I mean, it could be like this. for-
and this isn't like the sinkhole on line
A lot of
9,
months.
you know. They'll just close that off and fix it within 6 months here and be done, you know, so.
And we can always, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, we can always, I don't know the garage issue you're talking about where the person has to walk all the way around, but we can always maybe visit with that person individually and, you know, if we can move our barricades 50 feet or something like that to allow access, that might be possible. We're just trying to avoid anybody driving on top of the part that's moving.
Right. So even keeping like if we move the barricades farther out and didn't block it completely off, are you saying the stormwater goes on both sides of the street? Or like that side of it, like the south side of Martin is
Stormwater's
falling
on the-
also?
The stormwater's on the west side of the street,
Okay,
but the part that's shifted downward is the east side. It's the part not on top of the stormwater.
right, part that everybody's driving on currently.
Yeah, there's voids or something under there and it's settling, so that gravel or whatever's underneath there, that soil's traveling down the storm sewer.
Okay.
So we don't want a big sinkhole or something to develop.
Okay.
But we'll take a closer look and if you can show maybe me or Matt that exact house.
Yeah, by that picture, it looks like it'll block her carport and then her garage. So she'll have to travel a mile either way, no matter how she goes back up Ann and down Sierra and all that, or up through that
I
other
mean,
subdivision.
Drive a mile.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was thinking you were talking about walking a
No,
mile.
but no, driving a mile if she has anything in there that she wants to, you know, bring around kind of thing.
If the council approves it tomorrow night, how quickly will it be closed off? Or is
I
that,
guess
that mean
Wednesday
anything?
morning.
Yeah, probably Wednesday morning.
I mean, that's been my typical, timeframe with them.
Well, you know what our funding mechanism is up in the air on this,
Right.
right?
Right.
I mean, November maybe at the earliest.
Yeah, like
The
Dawson said,
city
if this
could-
would've happened,
The
you
city
know.
could choose to fund something like this too, though. Keep that in mind as a council person. I mean, property taxes go
Right.
toward these kind of things, so.
Right. Is property tax
If
on
we
your guys'
need to
idea
make
for a
this a
stormwater?
priority, then that is another option, so.
I'll repeat that.
For the stormwater fee, is there, we can put that into property tax then, I guess? Was that not on the idea initially, I guess?
It was one of the possibilities, yes, with some strengths, some weaknesses to it.
Right. Yeah, all the citizens, they understand that the money has to come from somewhere, so. They understand that there will be
I
some
think
sort
half
of.
of them did not. Or at
Well,
least
these that I've talked
slightly more
to
than-
understand.
I'm under the assumption that people have been staring at the.
People that are affected definitely understand.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if this would have
There's a lot
happened
more
last
people
year,
that
that'd
could
have
be
been,
affected, so,
but
but, you
either
know,
one. Okay,
all right.
thanks.
Yeah, we'll do what we can with that lady
That'd
Okay.
be great.
specifically. Will she be there? Is she on the agenda tomorrow?
Probably. I'll have to look at the exact name.
Thanks for talking to all those folks.
You're welcome.
I'm sure they appreciated it.
Let's hope.
Hopefully you can drive over to finish up next to the barricade.
All right, moving right along to regular reports, general manager and operations.
I got a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'm gonna make up for the other short stuff on our agenda. I'll talk about some of it right there. You guys met Lance, right? That maybe Bill, Lance, new facilities supervisor, water and wastewater plant.
Yes.
Started 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Started the week we were sandbagging.
Morning the storm sewer blew up.
Oh, nice.
Yes, that is when he started, the 29th.
Hopefully that's not indicative of your tenure.
Let us know when you get it fixed.
You know, 2 weeks. As you're aware, we continue contending with high river elevations. Going on 2 months now, the floodgates being in, which usually go in about the 20-foot river mark. And haven't been removed since. Last month I promised you an update on our cost. So far, we have about $100,000 in flood prevention efforts to date. And that does not include anything related to the North Street failure, because we obviously didn't do anything except put up barricades. So, I expect that number to
Does that
double, triple, somewhere in that.
include our cost of labor or just materials?
Yeah, that's, majority of that is labor, and we not only did we do, what'd you say, sorry?
Infringement if it's on the labor.
Yeah, and fringe on labor. We not only, this is not all for the flood wall extension portion, that's I don't know, somewhere around half or less of that. But we've been going daily, doing daily inspections at levels above 24 feet at some of our facilities, and that includes weekends. So when you send 3 people in a boat, and it takes them a couple hours, and, they're on regular and overtime, it adds up in there. So we just stopped doing it this Friday, when we were about below 24 feet. We continue to work with the emergency management coordinator and FEMA on hopefully some reimbursement. Nothing guaranteed. I know the governor came and visited and said a few nice words about FEMA funding, and emergency coordinator said similar. So I think they're taking the necessary steps to try to get some, but those decisions haven't been made yet. So we're going to continue to track our expenses as if it's a possibility, and if it is, then great. Including the North Street failure. I just looked before I came in here, 22.4 foot river and infalling, so that's good news. We are already planning on doing some of our prevention items. Probably the biggest profile items will be taking the extension off the gates, which will start in the morning, assuming the weather's good.
How about, I've had some folks ask me this around town, how much of that are we gonna be able to save?
We were hoping all, but according to what Matt and some of the other people were telling me, we've had some of them got wet, and plywood wet don't go well, so we're gonna try to save it all. Some of this all thread and stuff we were under the assumption we're gonna be able to save, but plywood, that's kind of built to fit. We're gonna do our best to try to save it all, but we won't know until we start taking it down.
Let's hope we don't need it for another 10 years, and then the stuff that we saved from the last time wasn't really usable, right? So.
Yeah, we bought a couple of semi-trailers, that we had a couple chassis left over from our diesel generator project. So we're gonna store it in there and we'll have it ready to use. Just to kind of follow up on what Steve said, I want to thank all the supervisors and the crews that have been extremely flexible and willing to work extra hours to protect not only utility assets, but help out with the flood wall downtown as well. Even sandbagged a couple of times whenever they just needed extra people. They've been very eager to support other areas of the city, particularly the supervisors. I mean, I gave them sometimes 30 minutes notice, hey, I need as many people as you can down here. They rearranged their schedules and did it without complaints, so I appreciate that. Like Steve mentioned, it's just another way of showing how having a local owned Board of Public Works, municipality allows for that effort to take place. If we were Ameren or American Water or something like that, then it would be a different story. They'd be paying contractors to do that work, so. We are sponsoring an event, co-sponsoring an event with Hannibal Regional Economic Development Council in this room on Friday from 9 to 3 p.m. called Data for Decision Makers and Fundamentals of Economic Development. It's intended to be for board members, councilmen, those type of people. I believe, again, Stephanie are signed up to go. I don't know how many of the councilmen are signed up to go, but that's the people it's intended for, so.
On the 21st?
On the 21st, yeah. I was trying to keep it to no quorum, so that's why I started with those two, and since they said yes. Last week I attended the HBPW conference in Texas. I appreciate the opportunity. It's a good conference. I had not attended it for probably a decade or so. A lot of interesting topics, all related to electric, and a lot of sources of contacts to the HBPW. They have a ridiculously large vendor show as well, so pretty informative conference. Just returned Thursday in time to do this agenda, so I appreciate the opportunity. I have a couple items on the city council agenda that they did not mention, unless they're important, but I just wanted to make you aware. The first one is the master purchase power agreement with TransAlta that you guys approved last month. Requires the mayor's signature, so got that on their agenda. Also, we paid off a lease with Missouri Association of Municipal Utilities, MAMU, and it requires the mayor's signature to terminate that lease. So, yay to Abe for paying off the lease.
We pay our bills.
Yeah, we got that lease in 2004 to do the finished water storage tank at the water plant. And I believe to upgrade a couple of substations in the electric department. 2004 memory is not all here right now. But the big thing was we did not have adequate cash reserves at the time, so we got a lease. So we're in the same position we are now. Alan mentioned the proposal to close Market Street. It's on the city council agenda under Amy Dorian's name. Matt and I will be there to answer questions, provide support, response to concerns. So the council has this drawing. We got an information email that I had sent to Alan that shows kind of the reasons why we think it should be closed. It also includes the Bevingstone box study of the Market Street storm sewer and the repair solutions they recommend. The cheapest of which was about $200,000, not counting any water, sewer, or electric or street repaving upgrades, which all are similar to the storm sewer. So,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we do not know, we haven't looked underground at the area.
We tried to access it last week, or 2 weeks ago, and it was just too confined of a space to get into.
yeah, it's already a small space.
So you see things above subside and you can pretty much
Yeah.
guess what's going on down below.
You'd have to crawl in it.
Yeah, we don't want you to risk your life to figure it out. You could stick a camera in or something, but I'm asking a question because
Yeah. But we
this
can't
is
get
what we're
down
gonna have to
it.
do all over town if we ever,
Mhm.
you know,
Get funding.
to get down to business and start doing these things, and figure out ways of doing that too, since it's not the easiest thing to do, so.
And I mean, I said this earlier, but obviously due to lack of funding for stormwater repairs and maintenance, we do not have a timetable on making the repairs, so this could be an extended street closures, why it's such a, it's not for a month, it could be months, years before anything is done, so. And like Alan said, there are 3 citizens from the area on the council agenda to speak right before. Also, in positive news, our social media followers, we've seen a large increase in the last couple of months, most of which can be attributed, I believe, to the flood efforts downtown. You know, watching the crews do that flood wall extension got us a lot of positive feedback. I thought it was interesting in the last few days, we posted something on Smart Hub, and we got 16 comments. Most of the time we put something on Smart Hub and you get nothing. But so Carrie went to some training a couple weeks ago. MPUA sponsored some training in Columbia by a company called Digital Media Workshop. And they talked about a different strategy, especially on Facebook posting. Instead of just mass post 3 times a day, twice a day, or whatever, they talked about targeted posting. And actually a lesser approach of key items towards a targeted area, and maybe even some boosting of paying for certain things, gets you a better response, gets your messages out there better.
Could you explain the difference between the boost and the ads? I don't
Gary
know.
can.
I don't. I've never heard.
A boost is you just maybe pay Facebook $5, $10, $20, and it will just boost it out to as many people as possible. An ad is more targeted, so if we wanted to do our followers plus maybe not our followers to gain some followers, I could put in a address and it could do maybe a 5-mile radius around that address. So it's more specific than just kind of putting it out there, throwing it out there to whoever sees it. You know, it's more targeted.
Like maybe
So.
to do a Bear Creek cleanup or something?
Yeah.
Be a good example for use to
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's a lot more targeted and a lot more bang for your buck versus just kind of throwing $20 at Facebook and say, here, you decide. You're actually deciding who you want it to go to. So it's a little bit better, and that's what Bucket Media, who hosted the event, kind of was saying. It's Facebook wants you to pay now, you know. I mean, all social media wants your money, but Facebook is so big that you know they want you to pay to play these days. So
I think that the key thing is the social media arena is changing often, and Carrie's trying to stay up to date. That way we can change with it and still use it to our advantage instead of just getting left in the dust. So
yeah.
I appreciate her going to that and making that recommendation change. We'll see what it does. Kind of on this North Street storm sewer again. I know we talked about this a little bit, so I won't spend too much time on it unless you have questions. We did have a significant failure on May 28th, 29th. Resulted in flooding the downtown area between the levee and Church Street. Basically until the river level drops to 21 or lower feet, we can't get in there and do even an inspection. And even at that, I'm not sure it's still gonna be full of water. So we may not know the answer for quite a while on what is happening down there. And we may not be able to get close enough to it.
Roughly 21 feet will be able to open the North Street gate. It won't allow us in to do any inspection at this time, but it'll allow water to go out to the river, hopefully, and not repeat at the events
Yeah,
where we flood that.
even in a normal river level, 10 foot or whatever, there's still a little bit of water backing up in that gate a little bit. It's not like you can walk out on dry land and then into the river. So it may be a little bit longer before we can determine the issues. We are staying in contact with the emergency coordinator of the city and the Army Corps, because they all want to know what's going on down there as well. So hopefully the street will continue to remain open to local traffic like it is right now, but no promises going forward.
Do you foresee any kind of complications with the levee on that?
I don't think
Pretty
so.
close, isn't it?
The problem is when they constructed the levee and that gate well, they connected into the old storm sewer. They did that in part of the levee. And so, I mean, not knowing exactly what failed, I mean, my inkling would be to go in there and connect to the concrete structure that they built as part of the levee and come out with a repair. So we'd have to work hand in hand with the Corps, necessary permitting and stuff. And there's some other stuff that they would like to see happen down there at the same time. Like Councilman Dobson alluded to earlier, you know, maybe a pump station's part of the solution. You know, acquiring that property to the north side of North Street there that's up against the levee. They'd like to see a berm built all the way across there, because it helped with some of the boil issues that they had when the river was up around 30 feet, so.
Yeah, we were having CP or boil issues before the storm sewer failed. So, don't know if they were related or contributed to failure. Don't know. And also, we had an inspection, MS4 permit inspection by DNR Northeast Regional Office on June 6th, so kind of interesting timing on that. And we're waiting on a report on that, so kind of had 3 significant stormwater items this month under talking about potentially closing a road in town because of stormwater deterioration, storm sewer deterioration, and North Street failure. And then we had, of course, our first inspection of the stormwater program since we kind of took over, so. More to come on that. On a lighter note, in the electric department, if you haven't seen the lighthouse on the north end of Main Street, it looks pretty impressive. Jared's crew, electricians, linemen, and we hired a contractor as well to help complete the electrical wiring and lighting portions of that. They finished about the second week of June, and kind of rushed through because the materials came in. And they're up there trying to get it done as quick as possible because Flag Day was coming up and some other celebratory events, so they're trying to get it done as much quickly as they can. So I appreciate their efforts and working overtime, trying to get that done.
Just being nosy, is that programmable? Is that program the different colors
You
and
can
all that?
program as many possible programs, color combinations as you want.
Okay.
So,
Where's that?
It's like 180,000 different color combinations.
Where's that come out of? What is it?
The
Control center for that?
we bought it from a company they're actually based out of Canada, but we bought it from a company called Lighting Associates out of St. Louis.
Is that located, what, City Hall or somewhere?
Say that again.
Oh, the controllers. What he's
Oh, the
talking about.
controller. The controller itself is in the
Oh, it's in the
lighthouse
house?
itself. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I saw it, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's why the blue's one, apparently.
It is. That's what everybody said.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Outages for the month of May were higher than normal. If you take out the one large storm event on the 18th, we're tracking about half our outages, and we're a whole lot better. But we did have 2 significant outages. One affected the entire Oakland substation, you increased the volume of customers, and kind of changes your statistics quite a little bit. And we had another outage on the entire circuit, the Indian substation, had a squirrel issue, a block or 2 outside the sub. Knocked the whole circuit out, about a third of the sub, so.
You decided to commit suicide, huh?
Yeah. Probably wasn't much left of it.
We got a lot of rural over there.
Water department started their annual fire.
Before you go on to that, I see Prairie State had a really miserable month, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Unit 2,
Unit 2 had 2
What the
weeks.
heck?
3 different occasions had 2 weeks.
56%, that's,
Yeah, you had 97% last month, 56 this month. Especially during May, that's a pretty lousy month, to be 90s.
is there any way, I mean, do you call and complain, or do we have any recourse on that, or not? We do own the thing.
Yeah, well,
Part of it, sort of. We own the.
Technically, we own it through MPUA, so MPUA is the official owner or board member, and we can complain to them, and they can give us an update. That's about the gist of that.
What's the
You
exact, is
should,
there a third-party management company outsourced? Isn't there like a 13-member management board that's in an outsourced actual day-to-day operation to a third-party entity?
Yeah,
Frank, I mean,
Duncan used to be on the management board, I'm not sure if he is currently, but somebody from NPUA is on that management board. And just like you guys, makes their policies and that kind of stuff, so.
Okay.
We have kind of a seat at the table, if you wanna call it that.
Yeah.
It's a non-speaking seat.
So we have to speak through them.
You can speak to somebody, I'm not,
Hmm?
you shouldn't go
No, it absolutely should.
unnoticed or uncomplained about,
In the water department, our annual fire hydrant testing started last Monday on the 10th. Started up the water plant, kind of went out, Hannibal Road west, and then up 168. This week they're moving on to the area between Mark Twain Avenue and Broadway, about 5th Street to St. Mary's. So they'll be in your neighborhood eventually. As you can imagine, in the sewer department, sanitary sewer department, we had a lot of issues with sewer stop-ups and overflows, mostly to be attributed to the high river elevations. We did have to open the downtown constructed SSO on 2 occasions to reduce overflows in the downtown area. So send that notification to DNR each time that happens. At the wastewater plant, a similar story, high flows continued. It's at least the largest month of total flow I can remember. Jeff can remember either, over 300 million gallons of flow for the month. A dry month is typically about 100 million gallons, so. Pretty high flow. It did kind of ease up a little bit the last couple of days, and as we get closer to the 20-foot and below mark on the river, then it'll go back down to closer to normal. Just an update on a couple of projects. The metering project is moving forward kind of slowly, but it is inching forward. And the fund system upgrade is scheduled for June 24th. So next time you guys come here, we'll have a new fund system over there. And then something recently that I'm not sure we talked about at this level very often is a payment kiosk. We were talking about a possible payment kiosk here at this facility, sort of like a ATM machine or a machine about the size of that podium that would either be indoors or outdoors, depending on the situation. Very recently, City Hall, went through some reorganization, and they have become open to the idea of a payment kiosk being down there instead of the current plan where people walk inside and make a payment, and we have to pay them $1 to process it, and we have to do some more processing here. So, since they're open to the idea, we contacted the supplier, and that NISC, our software provider, gave us a preferred supplier, and they're gonna come pay us a visit, talk about the different options of both locations. Looks like right now, we prefer an indoor one here, kind of in that vestibule area that you first walk in up front, that way people can come 24/7 and pay, indoors. And then at City Hall might be an outdoor option, just where we don't have to do something inside the structure of City Hall itself. But they're open to the idea, so we're gonna strike while the iron's hot, because I don't know, you guys don't know the history here, but that's been a difficult transition to try to not have the clerk's office taking our payments. They've historically been against that. If you go back 15 years ago, we paid 50% of the city clerk's office expenses.
Oh, wow. Collector's office, I believe. The collector's office.
Collector's office, sorry, not clerk's. And we've kind of dwindled it down to, I think in our current budget, it's about 12 to 15,000 a year.
It's about $900 a month, is what it ends up being.
That we end up paying. It's basically $1 per transaction they process. So we have some customers that still are in the habit or like to go down there or live close, whatever it is, and make their payment down there in person. We have a drop box down there that they can just drop it in as well, that we pick up.
So,
So the kiosk would allow them to go down there and make their payment in person with a credit card, check,
Cash.
I believe cash. And some of the advantages of the payment kiosk are, it's connected to our software, and they correct me if I'm wrong here, it will automatically go on their account immediately. So if it's 2 a.m., it goes on their account at 2 a.m. And with the new metering system we're getting, it's remote disconnect, remote connect. So if you're disconnected, you do not pay, and you pay everything at 2 a.m., it's supposed to come on. It's instead of waiting till the next day or calling us and waiting an hour or two, and spare money payment, all that stuff. So there are some advantages for customers as well as efficiency advantages for us.
In the future, if we do prepaid utility payments also, this would enable that, or customers can pay for like a week of usage, pay ahead for a week usage at a time. This would enable them to, process more transactions.
To be that guy, what happens if there's a problem with the kiosk? Is the city collector's office just gonna turn them away at that point, or?
I think we're gonna leave a big sledgehammer down there.
Okay. Yeah.
Big pair of boots, you can kick the machine out, bang against the side of the building like we used to do.
The city collector's office eventually will not even have the software, or the ability to process a payment.
Oh, okay, cool.
So there'll be a phone number on it, they can call and we can try to address their issue over the phone, if not, they can come out here during regular hours.
How many, off the top of your head, how many people currently use that option?
To pay it at City Hall, be the $900 a month. It's at $1 per transaction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, we have 2,500 a month that walk in here and pay in person in this
Okay.
lobby.
Is there any thought of a kiosk here?
Yeah, there is like Keith, it's like, it's probably mounted inside of facing to the outside, the kiosk here. Folks would walk up, probably a little separate awning right next to the entry door, so they'd be out of the weather. 24/7, 365, they can pay with cash, credit card, check. The thought was, expand the hours, customers can make payment. Basically just make their experience much better.
Cut down on the walk-in, the walk-in payment customers, people that just want to pay quickly can do so.
Yeah, I was asking to make sure we weren't finding a solution without a problem, but 800 or 900 people a month downtown is significant.
That's folks actually having to go inside City Hall during City Hall hours. I thought for City Halls to have an outside self-contained unit kind of mounted on the sidewalk where it's 24/7, 365. Like he said, Sunday night at 2 a.m. they can walk up and pay.
It's my understanding that some of their staffing in the collector's office is, most of their duty is collecting BPW payments. So it does allow them through attrition at some future date to come back on staff as well, so.
And for us as
I'm
well.
sure the $1 a month thing, or $1 per payment wasn't paying per person.
True. And this addresses the safety issues that we've had discussions about as well, I guess. If you were to go to that, that's your only method of interaction.
I know we budgeted money this fiscal year to do some improvements here, and that this was kind of on our radar as one of our top priorities. And since they're willing, we're taking a closer look at it. Still waiting on some of the results of our engineering study, some of our long-term stuff on it, but maybe sooner than later. So. And that is all I have, unless there's questions. Probably the longest item of that.
He's such an overachiever, nice month there. Okay, on to the financial report.
It's been too long, joints are popping out. I would try to adjust this, but I will. What am I doing, right side? Hey, how about that? I'm afraid I'm gonna clang it and bang it. People's ears on YouTube. Anyway, I'll try to be brief. On the balance sheet, restricted cash decreased and unrestricted cash increased by about $1.7 million from last month after I transferred bond proceeds to reimburse ourselves for GAC project costs to date. For what it's worth, every month I'll kind of transfer money out of the project fund there. So we may see some little timing differences where cash goes down one month and back up the next month, but don't worry about that. As Heath mentioned, we had a scheduled payoff on a capital lease, and so long-term debt decreased by about $200,000. That's always fun to talk about. That's kind of the end of the good news, sadly, for the month. May was a challenging month financially, with all funds net income below budget, causing company-wide net income to actually be a small net loss for the month. Kilowatt-hour unit sales in the electric fund were down about 15% from the same month a year ago, causing operating revenues to decline commensurately. I'm assuming a combination of weather and flood-related lack of tourism probably played into that. Increases in operating expenses in the water and sewer funds more than offset increases in operating revenues in those funds. Combination of higher labor costs with the flood fighting efforts, those are sitting in expense right now. The materials we bought for the flood mitigation efforts are sitting in a capital account, but that labor got expensed as paid, and so if we get reimbursed for that, it'll make some future months better.
Also, we had some maintenance expenses and just some kind of those lumpy expenses like chemicals that you buy 3 times a year, all happen to land in May. So those all kind of conspired to make it a not very good month to talk about financially. The next page back is current month actual compared to the same month last year. Once again, company-wide income was about $267,000 less than the same month last year due to the factors we just talked about. Next page is current fiscal year date compared to budget. We're now 11 months into the fiscal year, and company-wide net income is about 21% below budget. This is being entirely driven by the electric fund, as the water and sewer fund's net income is about 21% more than budgeted in total. In the electric fund, the results reflect unfavorable budget variances in operating revenues and power supply costs. Revenues are within 2.3% of budget, and power supply costs are within about 3.3% of budget. So I feel like our budgets and revenue models are working. However, in total, these are causing over $1 million of unfavorable variance in net income. They're both going the wrong direction, unfortunately. In the water and sewer funds, favorable variances in operating revenues are more than offsetting unfavorable variances in operating expenses. The next page is current fiscal year date compared to the same time period last year. Once again, company-wide net income this year to date compared to last year is about 30% less than last year. Due to the same factors just mentioned, specifically lower operating revenues in the electric fund, higher purchase power costs, and also significantly that storm relief effort we performed last fiscal year in the islands did not occur this year. That has about a $600,000 effect comparing this year's net income to last year, as we did not have that kind of expense reimbursement this year. Overall, of course, though we're slightly below budget, below last year, I think the results are acceptable kind of in light of the factors we've had this year. The main factor causing our unfavorable net income to budget variance are MISO marketplace prices, which are almost entirely out of our control. We've hedged ourselves and scheduled everything to the best we can, and the rest we kind of leave up to the bigger forces there. Other information presented, of course, cash reserves, historical cash reserves, current investment listing, the dashboard. I also want to note that the financial audit has been scheduled for the end of August. Wade Stables will do our audit and the city hall audit run at the same time. That's on the books, or on the calendar. That's all I have. Do you guys have any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Let's see, we are continuing to show an increase in our electric cash reserve, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you were gonna talk about that next month in July, about
These on tonight.
cash reserves, or is that?
It's actually on the business
We
side
got
of the
we got the policy, so that's in the packet. All right, other questions? If not, on to the projects report.
DNR finally completed the review of our SRF project and gave us the okay to submit the final paperwork. We did that a couple weeks ago. I expect we'll be getting a letter from them, some additional changes or something, but hopefully they're all pretty minor. On the
Couple more months, maybe 6.
Yeah, heck, we may get it a year from now, who knows?
I'm gonna miss that.
On the chloramine alternative project, there's a photo laying there on the table that was taken roughly around the first week of June. It shows the excavation that was completed. You can see the shoring that was completed up against the existing hypochlorite storage facility, and also the north pre-filter basin. That's where they dug a hole about 40 feet deep, put an I-beam in the middle of it, and filled it full of 10 yards of concrete. Then as they excavated down next to it, they were required to shotcrete every 5 feet. So they're able to do that in 2 lifts and get down to the necessary depth to allow the new transfer well base to be poured. They poured the first one, I don't remember what day it was, 2 Wednesdays ago, I believe. They poured it, and they made the second pour last Thursday. So now they're working on forming up the the wall of that transfer well, so. And
So the transfer wells, why they're down that deep?
they are down that deep, yeah. As part of the design, we could use the existing transfer wells to pump to this new facility, but it didn't have enough head to get through the GAC filtration, UV filters, and fill the clear well. So we elected to go down deep with this excavation, and so with gravity flow out of the existing transfer well into this new one, install one new set of pumps, and those pumps be sized so that they can get the water through the new filters plus fill the existing clear well. Based upon a letter we saw about 2 weeks ago now, they estimate they're roughly 4 days behind schedule. They took out a lot of their fluff time that they had in there. As I mentioned in some of the earlier meetings, part of the problem was they were trying to get their shoring plan approved. But then the weather's kind of caused some headaches as of recently. I think in the month of May, we've had 15 inches or something of rain. I don't remember exactly, but it was in the teens amount of rain we had. So they're down there having to muck it out every day and before they go forward with anything. After they made their pour last week, the rains that we had this weekend washed a bunch of mud and stuff in there, so we're gonna go up with the back truck tomorrow morning and see if we can get that pulled out for them so that they can continue forming that wall and hopefully won't set them behind too much further, so.
If you guys are interested in an up-close look, I mean, anytime, just call me,
Just let me know.
go knock on the door.
I did talk, I was, attended the National HBPW conference last week in Denver, and I spoke with the vessel manufacturer, and they're ready to start delivering, I think, first part of July, they're scheduled to start delivering the vessels up here, so. I have seen some pictures of one almost completed vessel, it wasn't painted yet, but, and we're starting to prove colors and, they've got a section of the wall panel up there, I noticed this morning, or this afternoon, that the precast company had sent down to make sure they got final approval on before they went to full production, so. Plan is to have the vessel set sometime in July and then construct the building after that, so. The Warren Barrett water storage tank, weather kind of delayed it the last few months, but talking with the engineer last week, the contractor was all done with it, with the exception of like a 4x4 square, and he ran out of tank. He had it overnighted in, I think, Friday, so I'm guessing the weather kind of put the hamper on that. I haven't talked with him or followed up with him about that today, but hopefully by maybe the end of the week we can have that tank back in service. So it's not really critical to the overall operation of the system, but especially during this flushing, it does help to have some extra capacity, you know, getting water out this part of town. So next thing on the list would be looking at getting bids on rehab of the die makers tank. We spoke with the engineer, and they're gonna talk with some contractors, see how busy they are, and kind of gauge on when we would go out to bid on that one. That tank is more time sensitive because it's the only tank in the die maker's pressure zone. So we'll be potentially providing all the pressure with the pumps and booster station. There is a slight chance that we could use some temporary storage tanks brought in, trailer mounted pneumatic tanks that to help supplement. But just if we can get in and get it done, then it'd be more efficient.
Those be rented or something?
They can be rented, yes. They just bring them on.
And is this, is that in the budget for?
It was.
We would drop that tank just for cleaning and maintenance, maybe 3 times or something. But that's for like a day, not for 2 months a day. So.
And installed in the nineties, so we've got the useful life out of the coating system. Our inspections have noticed, paint missing, some rust starting. There was an icing issue in the past that had pulled some of the interior ladders away from the shell. We had to have an emergency repair where hired a contractor to come in and weld a hole in the side of the tank that was about a half-inch diameter hole that was spraying water. So again, we've seen the useful life of that coating system, and so it's been on our radar for past 5 or 10
And then
years.
5-year plan, what?
Did our maintenance ever go down a week of retooling or anything like that? Or are we just gonna go, I guess, here in July, August?
Yeah,
Hopefully
their
it'll be warm
downtime wouldn't
dry.
coincide with the prime painting weather, so.
Yeah.
We should be able to keep up with them with the existing pumps, plus with that SRF project, we did install a new fire pump to give us excess capacity should the need arise and us not have the tank in service. I mean, that was kind of the thought behind adding that additional pump, so. Downtown SSL elimination project, we've got a lot of ideas after the river levels being what they have been for the last couple months. Guys got stuff ready to go, do some manhole rehab, once it does get dry enough, we're gonna return to some of the areas that these manholes are located. Talked with Jeff at the track, and he's got some areas in smoke testing, with all, like the ball diamond, the old armory, stuff like that, where these buildings are inundated with water. Any stool, any floor drain that they got, it's just a direct connection to our sanitary sewer system. So I'm working with him to maybe come up with a system to where when a river gets up in the building, we close a valve, or there's some type of automatic valve that would close, that would cap off that sewer service, not allowing that flood water to enter our sanitary system. So something we're working through at this point. With all the other things, the limited personnel, we've not done anything on Patchen Street area. On the Surrey Hills area, we went out and done some math verification for MECOs on their hydraulic study. We just got that completed about a week ago, and so I've got to get that to Brian there so he can finish up his model. So that's all I have. Oh, one other thing, talking with Pam at Black and Beach last week, we're working to get the schedules together on the continuation of our stormwater development. So keep you up to date on those, and we'll start having some of those workshops and keep that moving forward. So.
Good. All right. Questions, anybody? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Very good. Okay, next up, old business. First of all, proposed utility rate adjustments.
While sitting here, I noticed 2 typos in my memo I want to point out to you guys. The references rates taking effect July 1st. Like Keith mentioned, due to the calendar, it's actually going to be July 2nd. And the rate sheets properly reflect that. And buried in the fine print down in the 3-inch meter charge will actually be $200, which is reflected in the red line rate sheet. The little memo screenshot that I have there says 198, which it's not. It's the 200 on the rate on the red line rate sheets are accurate for both for dates and that $200. Since I had some time to sit here and look at my stuff. Third time over, I caught that, but anyway, I apologize for the typo. The rate sheets as presented are accurate. The red line was.
Cool. All right.
I think all we need to do is just
At
ask
this
them
time,
to
are you
adopt these as of July 2nd, 2019.
okay? Do I hear a motion to adopt the new rate schedules as of July 2nd, 2019?
I'll make a motion to adopt the rate schedules as of July 2nd, 2019.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Next up, sewer ordinances for pre-treatment program and emergency response plan. Mr. Jeff Williams.
If you remember, a few months ago, you all approved the modifications for the pretreatment ordinance. Since then, it's gone to the DNR. They have put it out for public notice for 30 days, and they did not receive any comments at all. Neither did we, and neither did Kerry, I don't believe. So what we're asking for now is your all final approval on the modifications and endorsement, and we'll send that to the city council, and hopefully they will approve it and adopt it as it is. Unless you want me to read all of it to you again.
Yeah, I didn't
No,
include
right.
it in the packet, but it was a couple, whatever it was, 3 months ago, it was,
Yeah.
there was a red line sheet in the packet, it was 50 more pages.
Yeah.
And nothing's changed since then.
Nothing's changed, no.
And just to reiterate, industry that this impacts has been made aware and talked to and is okay with it and
Yes.
understands it.
Yes, we've had meetings with all of them, and there's been no problems. We've been keeping them up to date, no problems whatsoever.
Cool.
So,
Thanks for doing that.
yeah. Any other questions? Comments?
But for Jane, just to make sure I have it correct, I'm gonna try to put it on the next council agenda, for, the first reading, it takes 2, I believe.
Yeah, because it's gonna be, I mean, it's a whole set of ordinances. We have an ordinance to enact and ordinances, which sounds crazy, but that's the way it works. So, yeah, it takes 2 readings.
Okay, so I have to submit that like a week before the council meeting. Do you have to do anything?
I'm fine with it if they didn't make any changes. I had a few recommendations and I think we incorporated my few concerns and, I think we're good. So basically, I'm trying to remember the format. Was it set up where they drafted the ordinance to enact the ordinances, or did they just have the ordinances?
Just the ordinances, I
That's what I
believe,
thought.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'll probably need to do an ordinance to enact the ordinances, which is not that big a deal, but,
I know Angel was a little bit confused at what we presented and wanted something for you.
one thing, what's our timeline on that? It needs to be done by, I'm trying to think how many weeks we've got before the next meeting.
Next Tuesday, I gotta do it by.
Okay.
Or
That-
it's a
well,
further
what that means is that we have to get it done by Wednesday, because, I'm gonna be in the Bahamas, Thursday, Friday, and Monday, so,
Talking this week on Wednesday.
correct. So if you get it to me by tomorrow,
Tomorrow at 6 a.m.?
get it to me tomorrow and I'll get the ordinance ready. It's not that hard to draft the ordinance, I just need to have it in hand when I'm doing it. If you'll email it to me, I can knock it out pretty quick. Take me 45 minutes.
Okay. I'll probably do it for you.
Okay.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
I'm going with Anna. It's not like I'm taking her, she's taking me. This is the Nerean stuff.
All right, thank you.
So we don't need to have a motion to endorse this? do we?
Yes, you do.
We do?
Yes, go on.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Also,
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now on the new business, we have the one item is the cash reserves policy.
That's right. I just curious in the front row.
A little over 8 years ago, the Board of Public Works established a cash reserves policy using a consistent formula to calculate cash reserves for each fund. Of course, that predates my tenure here, but it's my understanding this formula was developed by adopting a policy in use in another larger Missouri city. At that time, all funds were well short of their policy targets. With the passage of time and prudent rate management by current and former boards and general managers, in recent months, our electric fund built cash reserves in excess of its policy target. This has raised questions for the Board of Public Works Board management, such as what to do with the surplus, is the formula accurate or in need of revision, etc. To address these questions, the board authorized Board of Public Works management to retain Utility Financial Solutions to perform an outside analysis of our cash reserves. UFS is a national level consultant to utilities in all areas of rates, financial management, etc., and they teach at national conferences for electric as well as water utilities. UFS prepared a cash reserves policy for our utility by taking into account operations and maintenance costs, our historical investment in fixed assets, our required debt service payments, including fixed charges at Prairie State, and our 5-year capital plan budgeted spending. In the memo there are UFS's recommendations for minimum, I want to emphasize minimum, cash reserves, our current cash reserves policy calculation, and our current actual cash balances. UFS's recommendations for electric cash reserves are about 27% higher than our current target. This is because UFS treated the fixed capacity charges at Prairie State as debt, with a higher corresponding risk rating assigned. I believe this is reasonable, as the fixed charges at Prairie State are mostly debt payments, and the Board of Public Works essentially, synthetically, air quotes, owns this debt via our take-or-pay purchase power agreement. Cash reserves, my air quotes funny stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it is debt, we just don't call it that.
Yeah, it's synthetic debt.
Yeah.
But we are on the hook for that obligation. Cash reserves calculated by UFS reflect the payments on the new borrowings in the water fund also, which are not yet factored into our calculation. All in all, I find their results and their conclusions and approach reaffirming, letting us know we're on the right track, as well as educational and informative. Of course, be happy to discuss these with you. Our recommendation would be, management recommendation, Keith and I and Matt, is that the board adopt the reserves formula as our new policy. And if so directed, I'll present of course, a red line policy at the next board meeting, and the calculation will take effect from that point on. But don't know if you guys had questions about the work they did, or the conclusions, or?
Well, I obviously am gonna have questions.
Let's go.
So, last we talked about it, is we talked about maybe looking for a range. And so I was kind of thrown off when we didn't see a range and we just saw a minimum.
Yep.
What happened?
What's up? What gives? I had the same thought. I walked through this policy with UFS, the person there. I asked them that exact question. I kind of said, is there a maximum type of thing? And they said no, they don't like to recommend maximums. What they like to do is calculate a minimum based on our known knowns. Like, they know what our debt service is, they know what our maintenance, our owning expenses are, they know kind of what our historical investment fixed assets are, what our budgeted capital outlay is. So they set a minimum target, and the maximum would be more based on qualitative factors, like do we have growth that we need to fund as far as adding new customers, or major capital projects not yet for which we budgeted. We have weather contingencies that are increasing in frequency or significance, like tornadoes, floods, that kind of stuff.
Was there anything, sorry, I'm trying to take notes.
Concentrations of major customers or industries would be another one
That's what I was gonna
that I
ask.
forgot to mention.
Yep.
Things like that. Basically the known unknowns, or unknown unknowns, or however we characterize that.
So General Mills is our major concentration.
They are.
At what level? Across
Company-wide,
the board?
you want company-wide revenue, or
Just percentage.
about 17% of company-wide revenue.
Is that, so I'm not an economic development guy, is that abnormal? Is that a
It's-
really risky thing, or is that a normal amount of risk?
I'd say it's higher than most other utilities our size to have that percentage wrapped up in one customer. I believe our ratings call kind of flag that when we do our credit analysis in the water fund. There's been a significant concentration of risk.
Will they develop a range for us if we ask them to?
If we paid them to, they probably would. I say that kind of off the cuff and half joking, but I'm not sure if they're interested in doing that. I think they've probably found themselves, becomes more of a contentious type of project than.
Because it gets into personal.
It gets political.
Yeah.
Rapidly, and it's also kind of baking in, like I said, the unknown things. Like if they set a maximum of, say, $5 and a tornado comes along, we needed $8, they look bad, and they would, we would be frustrated with their quality of their work at that point. So
And
Yeah,
just
especially
$12
if you're
million
making-
covers a lot of
Especially
stuff.
if you're making rate reduction decisions based upon a max number when you hit it.
Right.
Like, we've done that in the self-funded insurance fund, and now we wish we would.
it haunts you.
Yeah.
You
Would-
see-
Do you feel that you're capable of making a max target?
I can,
I'm not asking about your expertise, I mean, you're an honest guy, I don't know.
well, I try. I would take their minimum, and I would just say I would probably like to operate within a range, because minimums without maximums, to me, are kind of difficult to work in. I would probably take the minimum and say, and add 25% to it for a maximum.
Well, I think you could look at that minimum and call it adequate as well, too. You know, with
Minimally
adequate being, you know, understandably not enough to cover every possible thing, but they've certainly used all the standard procedures to come up with these numbers, and to me, it's good that what we had before is pretty close, right? One question, what made the sewer reserve go up? You mentioned the electric.
I believe it's just the higher risk rating for debt.
Okay.
They-
But we were right on for water, though, at least at this point.
Our formula was honestly different. We looked at percentage of operations and maintenance, percentage of debt service, and percentage of 5-year capital plan. Utility Financial looked at a percentage of our total existing investment in fixed assets, as well as capital plan, as well as a percentage of operations and maintenance, and percentage, different arithmetic.
Right.
Part of it.
One of the things that Abe and I talked about, and he put at the end of this memo, was having this looked at every so often, flying outside. So, you know, like maybe when you're doing an electric cost of service study, at the same time, have your cash reserve targets looked at as well. How you're doing that every 5 years.
I think it's a healthy exercise for the amount we invested in it. Whenever we do go to the markets for debt, they want to know that we have this kind of thing, that we actually are looking at it, thinking about it.
It gives us a view of what other utilities are doing as well. All we can do is ask a few people questions, but this company has hundreds of clients, so they have a lot of information.
And it's good to note that we're on target for
Minimal.
a couple of them. We're adequate for the 2 of the 3.
Minimal.
And
I would point out if we engage in some major capital projects in the electric fund, that would boost this target by about $700,000 minimum.
right, and I mean, you know,
In fact, I mean,
these
that bond-
reserves may be used for future projects that are
that would drive
in
us
the
below the
works.
minimum.
So, yeah, then you go down below the minimum, and then the fact that we are increasing at a modest rate helps us to recover.
And leaves us unprepared for the metrics that we just paid them to develop.
No, not necessarily. I mean, only the worst case. I mean,
Well,
we already talked about
it's our
the
job to
last
prepare for
major weather event that we had cost, what, did you say, 5 million, was it?
That was about
2. Was it 2 million? Okay, so I mean, you know, and that was a 70-mile-an-hour straight wind through things, and, you know, everybody's electric was out for quite some time, so I mean, it's, you know.
It's probably worth noting that Murma, our insurance carrier, their reinsurers have reassessed the entire state of Missouri for tornado risk. Yes, that's apparently a weather pattern of increasing severity and frequency.
I think
Floods seem like they're,
I think I've said this before, but when we first did the original cash reserve target policy, we hadn't had one for a long time, or at least not documented one at the time. And I really thought all those targets were unattainable. And I did, I thought, oh my gosh, we're never gonna get to that, that's a pipe dream. So it is positive news that we were able to meet those targets and continue being sound financially.
no doubt, having some money in the bank is better than.
So for an official policy, Abe mentioned he has to put it on the, you know, policy format, letterhead and stuff like that. We were gonna propose that next month with these cash reserve minimum targets in there, unless you say otherwise, unless you wanna see something different.
I would still like to see a range. Then it doesn't sound like
I mean,
he needs to see that.
These
but-
people don't want to give you a range, though, that's the thing, so.
But
I'm happy with what this is, because, and then, you know, I mean, we're already at or above on at least one of them, and with a trajectory that will continue to increase. You know, and that's without having increased rates for the last couple of years in electric, so that's fantastic. And so we're going in the right direction. you know, if you saw 12,000, you know, 12 million, okay, add 20% to it or whatever, you know, I mean, it's still, there's nothing that says the minute we get to the recommended reserve that we immediately stop or make adjustments to rates. But on the other hand, it's always something to consider. Once you exceed that reserve target, then you consider what's coming in the future and or whether or not you need to have a rate set that grows it, you know. And that's the thing we can have the discussion about on an ongoing basis, you know.
I'm with you there, and that's actually why I think a maximum would be nice. Because then when we
What
get
would
that
a maximum do, though?
then we get to.
And that's your excuse for for lowering rates when we're over the low end of the target?
No, maybe it's our excuse to, now we look at it and we say, hey, we have this money, we're in excess of the absolute worst case scenario of natural disasters, losing our biggest industry. And now maybe we can pay off debt. Maybe we can self-finance projects. Maybe we can lower rates. Maybe
We're
we
already
can-
using it for that, right? I mean, there's nothing that says you can't drop below the recommended reserve, is
I think it
I
might
think
be,
it's
it?
just
At least in a
possible.
short term, or even in a,
it could be a bit, considered a bit reckless or imprudent to intentionally take folks to the applicable minimums. I mean, the point of a minimum, is, you know, it's kind of hard to.
is not
top
to spend
down,
anything of that money below the minimum.
unless it's a true emergency or drastic call for the spend of the money.
I think our rating agency that we just used would probably agree with that.
Yeah, these minimums, they express these in terms of number of days of operating expenses, and for the electric fund, this would represent about 200 days of operating expenses.
So if a year from now, we were gonna do a
Bond issue.
$5 million electric project, and we have the minimum plus just a little bit, we would propose to borrow money for that instead of paying it out.
Yeah, I'd probably propose borrowing it with the option to make it, you know, advance principal payments on it if funds allow.
You don't think they would, you don't think it would be okay to spend some of it down as long as it looked like, as long as we were projected to be right back at the minimum within a short period of time?
There's a short period,
Sorry.
3 years,
I
5
mean, if you're
years.
gonna borrow money, you're gonna raise rates to cover that, right?
Not necessarily, depends on the nature of the borrowing. If we're borrowing to replace the wholesale distribution charge, you know, we can kind of use that charge to offset the borrowing, and it wouldn't necessarily involve a rate impact. Or if the borrowing is to install a energy producing unit that, you know, kind of pay for its, make its own payment.
I'm just not sure I want to tie our
I see.
hands with not being able to use reserve funds, at least some portion of it, on a capital investment. You know, and then your reserves take a little dip and they come right back up. You know, and
You guys have got the ability to legally to use the reserves anytime you want.
For anything
The
you want.
issue is just gonna be recognizing your fiduciary duty, how it's going to affect your ratings with different rating agencies, and what's the most prudent cause of action. But, I mean, you guys are the ones that decide this is an emergency, or this is something that's appropriate to do it. I mean, the decision to set yourself a floor is completely at the discretion of this board, because this board is the one that set your lower, that set the goals in the first place. So they can always change the goals, amend the goals, decide to spend below the goals. It's just an issue of how does that affect your ratings, and how does that freak out conservative guys like Abe? So, I mean, pulling his hair out if you guys spend all the money.
What I'm
Funds are
getting,
going gray.
what I'm getting at is, if you have money in the bank and you're gonna invest, why borrow if you have money in the bank?
That's what I'm saying about the match
Because
policy.
cash is king in an emergency, you know, that's why we.
The
I mean,
amount-
of course, it's a board policy, you guys tried how you chose, and, you know, we can have in our language that, you know, prudent, you know, the board can, you know, spend reserves below these minimum targets, you know, with the expectation the reserves will be rebuilt in the near term.
And I think it's just the definition of the word minimum versus target and versus maximum, kind of maybe gives you the impression that you're limiting things.
Maybe we should look closer at the way they derive these then, you know, and kind of
Because we had a minimum of one
Because
time.
if it's a minimum of the town gets flattened, then that's one minimum. But if it's, you know, and it's more complicated than just that.
Their general theory is to take 1 month of operating expenses.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the 12.3% of O&M expenses is. And just to take, I believe, 80% of our annual debt. They actually looked at the, how these debt payments are staggered throughout the year for each of the funds and tried to, thread the needle on that. Historical investment fixed assets, if we had to rebuild any kind of percentage of our system, what that would look like. We only assigned like 1% of our historical investment. So maybe something bad happens, it's only gonna affect 1% of the lines.
Yeah. Well, I don't propose teaching all this right now either. And we can go into all hypotheticals about what, what ifs, but,
There's 11
I think
pages
it's
of-
good, this was good that we did this exercise, had them do it, and it looks like what we were using up until now wasn't too far off.
It was pretty good, in all seriousness.
I'm actually quite surprised that we were as close as we were, especially in electric, so I'm happy with that, so. And, so we're not gonna vote on anything on this tonight?
I know that you
This is just a
have
report.
to necessarily vote on this, because we will have to put an official policy in front of you with
Sure.
proper format and that kind of stuff. But if you like to study, that's what we'll do. And maybe give you a couple options next month.
Sure. I don't know if is there any kind of action just to accept the report, like we do with the audit report, or is that too formal or something?
Can do that, but
I'm just asking.
Not required.
we already have it. We're gonna pay them anyway.
How much was this?
$9,000.
Every 5 years. When was the last time we did it?
We've never,
We did.
to my knowledge, we've never paid for one of
We
these.
did
Oh.
We
we did
copied
our-
off of somebody.
Yeah, we did our
Oh.
own research.
I guess I thought we paid somebody to copy, but we just copied ourselves.
No, we did our own research across the name out.
Internal staff labor.
Okay.
Internal resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, we cobbled copies. But, we'll work up a red line proposal for the new reserves and discuss that next month. See if we're looking.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
Comments from city attorney?
I have no additional comments.
So noted. General discussion?
Oh, you're gonna love this. I got a couple. Quick.
Of course.
The
Bob.
first one.
General manager discussion.
The first one that was briefly mentioned earlier, the HHMC meeting with the CID, Community Improvement District. I can set up a meeting if you desire with Corey Mahaffey. He said it takes an hour and a half, where he can explain the CID to two of you, all of you, none of you. I can set up a combined meeting where he can explain it to a few councilmen and you guys.
So,
But he did say it takes an hour and a half.
yeah, I was about to ask, can you just put in a memo, but apparently not.
He
This
can
won't
give
be
me,
covered next, or this Friday?
no, it will not be covered this Friday.
Okay.
I don't want to even try to regurgitate what he told me, because I missed about, one out of every, about 9 out of every 10 words. But the idea behind this community improvement district is that it will have its own separate board, that may be combined public and private partners. They'll draw a border around a certain district, that will be where the increased sales tax or whatever happens, and the board will decide how to use those funds. There are things we obviously already have to do for stormwater eventually. They're not, Corey's not proposing that this would pay the entire portion of that. He's proposing in his history that it's paid for part of some of those improvements. Also, is kind of a starter thing for, let's just say, a movie theater wants to expand or something like that. Also gives them the ability to fund stuff like that, or gives them some sort of tax investment in that too. I don't understand all the details, but he does. If you're interested, I can at least get the documents and you can read through them and ask questions wherever you want. If you're interested in a presentation, he's willing to do that. I thought it was a 10-15 minute one, but he said no, it's like an hour and a half, and that's about what it was for the downtown business group, so. But it's just something he's saying is a possibility.
I'd be interested. I don't wanna make him do it just for me though, so.
I was just trying to avoid him doing 6 different presentations on the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, who creates these things? Is that gonna be the council's
I don't know the answer to that.
responsibility?
I
Okay.
don't know the answer.
Obviously, it wouldn't be
The
ours.
answer is, the best way to do it is hire a lawyer who's an expert in setting these up. I looked at it with Corey and I'm like, yeah, I could probably figure it out, but man, it is gonna be really labor intensive. And there are some firms that specialize in these things, and the law firm, but it's kinda like hiring bond counsel when you're doing bonds. I
He
mean,
explained to me that council would get to select the board to begin with and have some authority in the setup. But then after that, that board is the ones who decide how to spend the funds. He said in his history, it's been a combination of public and private board members. That way there's some city officials on there along with, private business owners or whatever.
And this is being looked at as a mechanism to make improvements to the downtown stormwater.
That, for us, that's the draw.
That's our stake in it or whatever, our interest in it.
Is our, that's what caused him to talk to me about it, so.
Okay.
I'll always get the written documents and email them to you guys and see if there's more questions. And
Okay.
like I said, I can't regurgitate everything he said. He lost me with CID, so. Next time I have is just something for your future. If you could take a look at your calendars in the next month for the August board meeting on the 19th. I have a personal conflict, and I may propose to move it back a week to the following Monday. But I won't propose it till next month. If that day is a problem, it's a different day.
I'm tentatively good with it already.
That's all I have.
Well, that's not too bad.
so you saying the 12th or the?
26.
26, yeah, backwards. Yeah,
I
Abe doesn't
don't
like.
know which way backwards means when we're talking about a calendar.
Abe doesn't like board.
Okay.
That is it.
Right. Well, then, next thing to do is to go into closed session. Who do we need?
Courtney, myself, you guys, James,
I mean, yeah.
Abe, Jared, Matt.
Oh, wow. We're having a party.
Okay, pursuant to section 610.021, paragraphs 2, 3, and 12 of the Missouri Sunshine Law, the meeting shall convene in closed session to discuss real estate, personnel, and contracts, and we need everybody he invited.
Courtney, me, Lord, James, Abe, Jared, Matt. Okay, we need a second.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.